Hello, it's the Anfield Wrap. I'm Gareth Roberts, standing in for Neil Atkinson because he's living at large in Berlin somewhere or something like that. And with me today, Ben Johnson, Andy Heaton and Paul Senior. And what we're going to do is there hasn't been any, a whole lot hasn't happened basically since Liverpool beat West Ham to make it 3 wins in 3 and put some smiles back on red faces. So what I thought we'd do today is just sort of have a look back, try and work out how everyone's feeling, review what's happened, think about what could be next, that kind of thing. So going all the way back then to the summer, Liverpool obviously pip Arsenal to 4th, secure a crack at the Champions League. And after finishes of 6th and 8th in the Premier League before that, I think that felt like a big step forward. It was only a point that they get the place over Arsenal in the end, but it felt huge then. And I think if we think about the summer, everyone was like, right, okay, let's go. We're in a position now to compete. We can sign players. We've got the Champions League. We've got Klopp. Felt like a big moment for Liverpool. What do we actually do? We signed 4 players. Mo Salah, Dom Solanke, Andy Robertson, Oxlade-Chamberlain. Keita obviously done for next season. But we miss out on Van Dijk, seemingly with some incompetence to blame. Bids for Lamar failed too. And then there's the Coutinho saga as well and the transfer request before the Watford game. So, Ben, I'll start with you, mate. Can you remember how you felt then going into that Watford game? What was the mood, if you like? How did you feel Liverpool was set for the season at that point?
I was all right with it at the point at which it was happening because the transfer window was still open, and I still thought we'd get the Van Dijk deal sorted. So I was all right with it. I thought our options, if we got a centre half in, were good enough to allow us to sort of compete. And I think as the season sort of progressed, the lack of the centre half. I mean, if you boil it down, we didn't sign our 2 top targets. We all summer we were banging on our top targets. Van Dijk, we're 100% certain he's going to come to us, and Keita, we're convinced he's going to come to us. And for whatever reason, we didn't sign them. And I think that's an issue. That's a big issue, and it's hindered us this season. You look at some of the centre half displays, and they've been fucking woeful. As a consequence of that, you look at where we are now, and you'd say we're probably parish for where we might be expected to be. It just smacks of a little bit of a missed opportunity, and whether that's fair and whether that's reasonable, or whether we need to be taking a more sort of pragmatic view and think, all right, well, we don't get them done in the summer gone, we might get them done in January, or we might get them done next year, and it doesn't really matter because we're just working towards this longer, I don't want to say project, but a longer plan to win fucking important competitions. But it just, I don't know, I think it's played out a little bit, the Van Dijk thing. Whether he's the answer or not, we need a fucking centre half. We're desperate for one. And I think the other thing that sort of, thinking back towards the end of the transfer window, I think the thing that sort of kids you a little bit is the Keita deal getting done for next season sort of sugarcoats the failures of this transfer window a little bit, because you think, oh well, don't get me wrong, it is a really good. It's the first time in a long time where you actually look at Liverpool and think, actually, that's quite sensible. That's a sensible approach to play more than as a release fee to get it secured for next year. That's an impressive move from an otherwise idiotic transfer committee, was my viewpoint at the time. But I think it did sugarcoat your opinion of whether the transfer window was successful or not. I think it wasn't. I think the only one that was really is Mo Salah, who was a fucking great signing and looks to be, a superstar. But I don't know. I think, and I'm banging on a bit here, I'll just do the whole hour. You just
That's
sit there.
Right. Yeah,
is that all right?
Yeah?
You all right with that?
I was a bit worried. I was a bit worried about today, but you're just boxing it off. The Ben Johnson hour.
I think the thing it raises a query over whether, there's a couple of things that's happened in the last few weeks. It raises a query over whether our scouting approach and our sort of analytical approach is slightly flawed in that, you've seen a Klopp comments about there's no 5 better centre halves in the world than what we want for the way we play. And then there was an article, I think, by Tony Evans a while ago who said that Rodgers asked a while back. It was a discussion on the transfer committee, and Rodgers asked a while back for centre half in January.
This is before they signed Sakho, by the way.
Before they signed Sakho, and they got told there's no centre halves. Now, I might be reading all kinds between the lines here, but for me, I think, well, if there was no centre half then, and there's one centre half now, maybe how you're looking for centre halves, and maybe how you're trying to rate them is incorrect. Because I think it's fair and reasonable to say that the transfer committee have got a lot of the forwards that they've bought. Firmino successful, Mane successful. No one else really mooching around for the money we were willing to pay. Salah the same. No one really mooching for him. We get him, he turns into gold, which you wouldn't expect. So you can look at it and think, well, that scouting system, whatever they're using, whatever the statistical analysis it is, it's getting results in forward positions, and it's getting results in midfield positions, attacking midfield positions. But whatever they're doing for defenders, for central defenders, in my opinion, looks to be a weakness, because there can only be one centre half in the world who fits the way we play. And so is there
logic,
is there a fall down in the algorithms? Is it they're just asking for the impossible that isn't there? You want a fella who's like Jesus to come and play centre half for you. I don't know. So how are we getting on? We're probably par, mate, I think.
I mean, Paul, I think it's interesting the way Klopp is always talking about sort of carrying around history and talking about sort of how we shouldn't sort of assess what's happening now with the knowledge of what's happened in the past. But it's not realistic for him to ask that of us, because we're human beings. And what I think about that mood around Watford game and around when the transfer window closed and around the whole Van Dijk thing is that you bolted that onto past times where you thought, you've made the Champions League and then you haven't made the most of it because of transfers, because of... And it kind of... What I remember everyone saying, particularly after the Watford result as well, and the goals Liverpool conceded that day, is people went, same old Liverpool.
Yeah, well, when Ben was talking, I was having a look at what we did in 14-15. Obviously, we qualified in 13-14, and I was looking at the business we did then, because everyone spoke back then about maybe missing an opportunity, and you see that we signed Lallana, Lovren, Moreno, Origi, Chan. There's lads that you had there, and you go, is even, and then we had Balotelli at the end, which obviously in hindsight, a few of them aren't great deals, but it seemed more of an ambitious transfer window then. And I remember coming away thinking we probably could have got every single one of them at the time without playing in the Champions League. This time round, again, Ben spoke about missed opportunity. I do sympathise a little bit, because you talk about centre halves, and Man City are in for Johnny Evans, and I remember Johnny Evans getting bombed from Man United, and it was almost like, where does he go next? He's a disgraceful centre half, and now there's conversations around Johnny Evans potentially being one of the cures for Liverpool. I don't know what that says about the transfer market or the quality of centre halves, but lads like Alderweireld, for example, who weren't doing it at Atletico Madrid, and then come to Southampton, and then go to Tottenham, and then sort of look like the best centre half in the world. There's not loads of them out there, I don't think. So I do sympathise in that, and Van Dijk is obviously very good.
I mean, basically, though, I think what people will say, and maybe people who are listening would say is, yeah, but you're just looking... I mean, Van Dijk's one end of the spectrum of centre halves, but equally, though, is there not someone who's an upgrade on Klavan? Do you know what I mean?
That was more my issue with it, that if you couldn't improve positions 1 and 2, then you had to go and improve position 3. I think Klavan was bought to be the 4th choice centre half, and then with what happened with Joe Gomez and his injuries there, that he sort of became 3rd choice very quickly. So, for example, Maguire went this summer. I don't think Harry Maguire is quite as good as people make out. He is, but he would have been a great lad to have been in and around the squad. I mean, I don't know, Raniel Klavan probably played 20, 25 appearances last season, and has made more than he should have already this season. So
don't forget Lucas played 15 games at centre-half
That's
last
true,
year
yeah,
ahead
as
of him,
well.
and he didn't get replaced.
The problem is, I suppose, is that our number 1 and 2 centre-half, Matip and Lovren, that they don't keep themselves fit. So it's automatically exposed because they're always out with what seems to just be niggles, knocks, whatever. So you see these centre-halves more than you want. So I think it was important if you didn't get Van Dijk and drop one of them 2 down into the third choice centre-half, that you had to go and improve the third choice centre-half. Who that is, if it was Maguire, if it was Michael Keane, whatever, I just feel like you had to go and buy one because since Brendan Rodgers has gone, we've added one defender, Joel Matip, and in my opinion, he's not all that. So the problem was under Rodgers, and I suppose it almost cost him his job, is that we couldn't defend. We conceded too many goals. Would have probably won the league if we wouldn't have conceded 50-odd goals that year. And not to improve the position that was a glaring weakness at the time still is still a bit criminal for me.
I think that's all fair enough. And so, just to bring it back to sort of how the season's gone then. So after Watford, obviously, Hoffenheim comfortably dispatched. We get into the Champions League. All that worry about, we were going to fall at that hurdle and do an Everton, if you like. That was gone. So, a bit of positivity around that. Arsenal win as well, really positive too. Everyone sort of buzzing off the back of that and talking about, possibilities for the season. But then the real thing where it sort of hinged really was Man City 5, Liverpool 0. And despite the circumstances of that game, obviously Mane's sending off, their quality, and their quality is obviously huge. That result seems to really hit Liverpool hard because it prompted a slump of sorts in that we end up drawing 2-2 with Sevilla. There's the home draw with Burnley. We go out of the League Cup at Leicester. Then we have the unconvincing win over Leicester in the league. Then draws with Spartak and Newcastle. And everyone was a bit down in the dumps again, aren't they, at that point? And again, it's those same conversations about the defence, but also conversations for the first time probably about Klopp as well. I think for the first time since he's been in charge, in that run, in the midst of that run, if you like, people started to have doubts really for the first time about the manager as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the questions around the manager, in so much as that, don't get me wrong, this Liverpool side is very good at feeling sorry for itself, and that's what happened after Man City. They took a pasting, and the circumstances around in which it happened, in so much as we were actually, and it'll never get noticed, all right for the first 20 minutes. They go 1-0 up, but we could have pulled a couple back. We got through them a couple of times. They go 1-0 up, and then obviously there's this sending off incident, and it just shows. I think this is where the question about Klopp come from. It shows a lack of leadership again. The whole way we addressed it and our reaction after the events as well. And I keep banging on about this, but when Mane got sent off, there was 5 or 6 Man City players around the referee screaming that he gets sent off. Our nearest player, the quickest player to Mane was Emre Can, and that was like 5 seconds, 10 seconds later. Our captain is on the touchline, not having a go. It's just not in his nature. But our captain's on the side having a chat with Klopp, getting a drink of water. And then after that, there was never any hint of, let's roll up our sleeves. The way this side's geared, everyone's got to be on it. And when they're good, they're very, very good. But there's no... Up until the last couple of games where I think we're finally finding that middle ground, we're either a 10 or we're a 4. We're either absolutely shit or we're great. And I think that's where we have made progress as the season's evolved, because our results have been better, but we've not really hit the highs of the Arsenal performance. I think where the question is about Klopp comes around is what you said after the Watford game, same old Liverpool. The problems you've got are already there, and there's nothing seemingly done to address them. I mean, there's the goalkeeper issue where none of them are good enough. I think I can say that with some conviction.
Yeah.
There's the
Don't get Jono started, lad.
I'm being polite. I'm trying to keep a lid on this.
Just a quick point. The funny thing to mention is we're talking about the start of the season. No one really talks about the keeper. I seem to remember the only person I heard.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I remember Sean Rodgers saying at Trich on a post-season review. He's saying there's a trick here to be had in terms of there's a Moneyball signing and buying a fucking top quality keeper. But I think
Minglake's stock was high because he had a good run towards the end of the season. That's what I was saying. Sell him while the stock's high and bring a new clear number one in. None of this sharing the jersey nonsense.
but there was no overwhelming sort of. Everyone was fucking cry-arsing about the centre half, rightly so, and everyone was cry-arsing about additional midfielders. But there was no, like, we desperately need a keeper. I mean, now I just think it's like, fucking hell, let's buy 4 of the fuckers.
Well, I mean, we talk about you talk about Van Dijk, and I buy all that. What you're saying, you know, the arguments about the centre halves gets conflated because we didn't just need Van Dijk. We needed Van Dijk and another centre half to fill in anyway, which people forget. But at the same time, I always go back to Newcastle in the mid-90s. Newcastle spent more money on centre-halves and defenders in the mid-90s to mid-2000 than any other team, and they never improved defensively. And there was one constant in that, and it was the lads who was in goal. So as much as you think, oh, Van Dijk will do this, Van Dijk will do that, I'm firmly of the belief that if you can have the best centre-halves in the world, if they don't trust the fella behind them, they're going to make mistakes anyway because there's no understanding there.
Yeah.
As a fact that wasn't addressed, there's the fact that.
Yeah, that's not a new thing. I can
No, it
remember.
isn't, but it's been there for... Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just this come into my head, and it's just a reason to rip Mark Lawrenson, basically. But I remember years ago, he was doing commentary on Radio 5 Live. I can't remember what the game was. It wasn't us. But someone just asked him that question, what you just said. He said, you know, Mark, you played centre-half. What's it like to be a centre-half, top-level football, and you don't trust the goalkeeper who's behind you? And he said, you know what he's like. He went, well, it's brown trousers time. But I know he's a prick, isn't he? Yeah. But the point he was but the point he was making is exactly what you said, and it's been around forever that you've got to have that trust, haven't you? And I think we're going to come on to talking about trust, but this is the thing, as we go through, you know, the games that Liverpool have played this season, and there's been highs, there's been lows, there's been in between. You still, as fans, as us sitting on this table, do you trust this Liverpool side to string, I don't know, 10 results together?
There's always a mistake in there. I think as well, look, you know, it's the old echo chamber argument, but I think when you're taking on the pit, I think it was the Newcastle game, the back four was like, it was worse than the back four the previous year. I think it's the fact that that's been ignored. I can't remember who it was, but I think it was something like Clavan started, Lovren or someone started, and Moreno. And to be fair to Moreno's had a good season, but in the early part of the season, people are looking at Moreno's name on team sheet and going, fucking hell, what's going on here? So there is that, you're right, there is that lack of trust. And look, let's be honest, do you trust, if Liverpool are 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go in any kind of scenario, are you thinking we don't need the second to see this through? Even now. You look at Watford, we seem to kind of, the way Everton, it's kind of, there's a little bit of Evertonitis in there. You know, with the way Everton do their own heading. If we're winning by a slender margin with 5 minutes to go or whatever it's on edge, we start retreating. We start making mistakes and we start creating problems for ourselves. And there is that in them where you get the sense of, and again, it seems to West Ham, we were great, but that maturity to just go, actually, lads, you know what? We're going to be all right here. Because it was getting to the point where opposition managers were going, you know what, boys, just sit back, keep it tight, because these will give us a chance at some point, and invariably we get punished for it. Sorry for going on, but that's what.
No, it's fine. I mean, I say, going to try and sort of go through and get up to where we are now. So I think we're sort of at. So where do we get up to there? Sparta, Newcastle, all that sort of point. Then we have United at home. Obviously, some positives from that. Liverpool only the side that looked like winning that one, obviously, and Mourinho gets a kicking for the way they set up and the way they managed that game. Liverpool followed that up with the 7-0 at Maribor, but then this is so typical of Liverpool that, or feels typical of Liverpool maybe, that they followed that up with the 4-1 at Spurs.
I think that was the most frustrating game of the season.
Yeah,
I think by a mile, because it did feel, I mean, that little run of Seville, where like everything that could happen was happening. Yeah. You know, it was a bit soft. You know, fella score them and they're not shooting. All this carry on. You're like, oh, come on, give us a break. And it seemed like we'd got over that. You know, United is a decent result. The 7-0, we just battered them. They look crap, but we just battered them. The first time it sort of clicked and you thought, yeah, it's right. And then you go into that game and it just took the wind out of everyone's sails. And you talk about trust. But immediately all you start having a run, you have a run of games together, and you're playing with someone, you're playing with it in front of a keeper, and you start keeping clean sheets, you start to build a bit of trust. But as soon as something goes wrong, you just go, who's the fucking I knew this gobshite to cock up, or I knew he wouldn't talk, or I knew the centre half would do that, or I knew he wouldn't score our chances. And everything that could go wrong in that Tottenham game did. I didn't even think Tottenham played well. We just gifted them.
But John, isn't that what I was saying about feeling sorry for ourselves, though? As soon as that first one goes in, it was like...
It wasn't even that. There was a couple of occasions in the first... We're a funny side in that we sort of set our own sort of framework within which the game's going to pan out. And in that Tottenham game, it was set in the first few minutes. Coutinho tried to beat his man a couple of times, chewed it, lost it, looked at the referee, didn't get up, didn't chase the ball. And you start thinking, oh, it's not going to be one of them days, is it? And then it was. And you're like, fucking hell, what's going on, boys? And there's no one who can rattle them. There's no one, there's no one who can get a grip of everyone and say, listen, what are we doing? Let's just dig in for 10 minutes. Let's just keep it tight till the half. Take our medicine, 2-1 down, whatever it is.
There's there seems to be almost like a domino effect, isn't it?
It is, yeah. If one thing goes wrong,
it all does.
It all does. Yeah. And it's easy to sit here and say the keeper's shite, because I don't think he is. I've seen something, I don't think he's good enough, but that's a separate matter. He's probably the 5th, 6th best keeper in the league. But the problem with him is the areas in which he suffers. The areas in which he's not good enough are the areas that absolutely compound all of our own failures. Do you know what I mean? So he's not really great at communication. We're not all over the pitch. He's not really a leader. We're not all over the pitch. So everything that he's not great at, it makes us worse as a team. Whereas, I'd have a lesser shot stopper in goal if he talked. I'd have Pep Reina with no hands. Which we had for a period of time anyway. But if he talked and organised and shouted...
He's just a bad fit, isn't he? He's just a bad fit for what we're trying to do.
He makes us a little bit worse. And that Tottenham game was everything that's wrong with Liverpool was just there. It was like crystallised. It was like someone had put us under a Bunsen burner and eked out all of the poor stuff that makes us not a great side. It was like Liverpool's shite, concentrated, squared, sell it. Fucking sell it, mate.
But in terms of mood, I mean, after that game, everyone was down, obviously, and you started looking up the league and you see City running away and you see that them tonking sides every week and, already sort of, this early, you're going, well, that does out the running for the title again, which is hard to take. So I think we've got to be positive, haven't we, about this little mini revival since then. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Huddersfield, Maribor and West Ham all defeated in a week. But have you seen something different, Paul, from Liverpool in those 3 games? I mean, maybe a little bit more cautious, maybe taking less risks. I mean, I've watched some of that, particularly sort of first halves of some of those games, and I thought, no one's really taking a risk, but maybe that's the policy, if you like. Maybe the manager's gone, look, let's get a base in a game. Let's not lose it before we've even started. You know what I mean? And then they've gone on and they've won all these games fairly comfortably in the end.
Yeah, I mean, in the Tottenham game, you saw that's sort of the last you see of Lovren until the last 5 minutes of the West Ham game. And I'm not saying all the problems were focused on him, but I think that's something that had to be done. And he did it the other year where he bombed Mignolet and he brought Karius in. And it didn't quite work out, but there was a decision made there that it's time for a change. Where I thought Brendan Rodgers used to do that quite a bit, where he'd change shape. Klopp's tweaked the shape as well a little bit. You've sort of seen a bit more of Oxlade-Chamberlain. I thought Klavan's done well as well. I think the 3 games Klavan's played in the sort of ideal fixtures for him, where Liverpool have had a lot of the ball and they haven't been doing much. I think when we're in games where Liverpool are expected to win, I don't mind Klavan as an option because his distribution's decent, he can step out and he's decent on the ball.
Good step over.
Yeah.
Does that boss dummy thing that everyone's lost their head about?
He dwells on it a bit. He dwells on it a bit, but he's excuse me. But he's looked all right. So if the game of the weekend at Southampton, I think he has to keep his place because I think he's earned it. Dejan Lovren for. I think Dejan Lovren's a decent centre half, but if it's fair and we're basing it on form, he has to stay in. But the sort of mini revival, the first 2 games, especially Huddersfield and Maribor, I took loads from that. I thought that neither side really wanted to win, and they were happy to park the bus, so to speak. And they're the games that Liverpool have not enjoyed. And Maribor especially, I took a bit from it because they really had no interest in winning that game. They just didn't want to get done 7-0 again. They're the biggest side in Slovenia, and that's the terrible message for that club to get tonked again. And they literally they took all their attacking players out and put all their best defensive players in, and went not again. And Liverpool found a way, same as Huddersfield. And then West Ham's, that first goal, and I feel like I've said it a million times, I absolutely loved it because it was a sort of example of the Klopp brand for the season, and the Liverpool side that's now got pace in. When he only really added one or two first team players in the summer, Salah obviously, and then we've only recently seen part of Oxlade-Chamberlain. But what he has done is he's got Moreno in there now as well, who's got pace. So at that game at West Ham where you've got Mane, you've got Salah, you've got Oxlade-Chamberlain, and you've got Moreno, that for me is a step forward, because that Liverpool side last year, Mane was so one-paced. It was pathetic. That Sunderland game just after the New Year, and Mane plays in that, but he's not really at it. The whole side's not really at it, but there was nothing to change the game, where now you feel like Liverpool, you can take Mane out. We've had Mane taken out of the side a bit this year, and we've still got a bit of pace in the side. So there is improvements, and there's been a bit that last week where we won 3 in a week. Sort of, I think it showed that we've got a little bit more, and the game. I'd like to think the game against Man City is an anomaly. The words I'm trying to say.
That one.
That word. And then I think what Ben said as well in the Tottenham game about the Bunsen burner and that, I think he's absolutely right. The thing that doesn't help is that it's the two lads that everyone's got problems with that made the errors. So that blows her up even more. Tottenham are a good side, and we've done to them what they did to us.
Yeah.
And it happens in football, and it happens more often than you think. But we haven't had it done to us for ages. If we've been good at anything, it's been beating or competing against the big sides. And this year we've been snotted twice. So we've got to react. We've got Chelsea in a couple of weeks, and it'd be nice to see Liverpool put a show on.
Well, so if we start to look forward now, then, because we've sort of mini reviewed where we were, the games we played so far. So where we are now is Liverpool sit 5th and 3 points behind Chelsea in 3rd, 4 points behind Spurs and Manchester United, who are 3rd and 2nd, but 12 points behind Manchester City. Looking at that table as well, just other little bits. We've outscored Spurs, who were on 20, and Chelsea, who were on 19. We've scored 21. But the goal difference obviously is just 4 because we've conceded 17. Now, though, it's a really interesting schedule now. Interesting's one word for it. Hectic is another one. We've got 9 games in less than a month. Starting with Southampton at home on Saturday, then Sevilla away on Tuesday, then Chelsea home the following Saturday, then Stoke away the Wednesday, Brighton away the Saturday, Spartak home the Wednesday, the Derby home on Sunday, West Brom at home on Wednesday, Bournemouth away the Sunday, and that run that I've just read out spans 18th of November to 17th of December. That is one sort of damning schedule, really, and there's no let up either. I mean, the BBC put something up over the weekend about that it took 87 days to complete the first 11 rounds of Premier League fixtures.
40-something days now,
yeah, the next 11 are crammed into just 47, including 4 festive fixtures, which is one more than last season. So I mean, what do you think? What does that make you think? Because, when you look back at last season, obviously, we were playing some fantastic football. We all got really excited. It was around Crimbo and New Year where things went wrong. If you look back at what Klopp was saying at that time as well, he was bemoaning, obviously, the grueling schedule in England. He's used to a winter break in Germany. He was really mad about the 48 hours, 2 games in 48 hours as well. I mean, he's just got to crack on though, hasn't he? I mean, this is the reality of managing a team in England. And so what do you think Klopp's learned from that? What do you think he's maybe going to do different this time around? And has he got the squad for it?
Listen, I understand that the 2 games in 48 hours, I think that's ridiculous. But in regards to the Christmas period, look, we haven't got one, deal with it. One of them. Get your heads around it. You've been here long enough. You've had your fitness staff in, you condition your players. We've not started as quickly this year as we have previous years, so maybe he's taken that into account. Saying that, I think Southampton quietly is now a massive game because as much as people don't go, it's not about momentum, football's very much about momentum and sticking a good run together. You talk about our fixtures and where we are in the league. Bar Chelsea, we played every team that we consider to be in our peer group. Do you know what I mean? We played Arsenal, we played City, Spurs and United. That we played more games against them teams than they have each other, if that makes sense. So now we go in and you've got a Southampton team at Anfield who typically, you think someone could be a tricky opponent, it's them, and you come off the back of an international break and we've gone in with a good record. If you can put them to bed, well, you've got a run of fixtures there, Sevilla away. We should do them. And then Chelsea at home. I think if you go into Chelsea with a positive frame of mind, and I said this to Neil on a show last week, I think Chelsea have started leaking goals and leaking big goals. I mean, even the Watford game the other week, they ended up winning. I think if you get a big score, again, if you can go into Chelsea on a win and get a big score against them, you can turn the actual run of fixtures and the condensed nature of them into a positive because you can ride that wave. And you forget when you moan about fixtures, the team you're playing, their fixture list is just as crammed as well. You're not playing 3 games in 5 days or 10 games in a fortnight against a team who's only playing once every other week. So that's what I'd be saying to the players. And also, the other side of that, I never believe a word that comes out of a manager's mouth themselves. And I think it's just an ideal cop-out for a manager, to be fair, to say, oh, well, the fixture list, blah, 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 blah. Because managers will do anything to not throw the players under the bus.
I think it's a good time. It almost looks like a good time for us to crack on because we've got Lana back. There's a little bit of news about Mane knocking about that. He might have hurt his hamstring, he might not. Seems like it's just a little bit of a, he'll play the first game, lads, but we want him back and we'll come up with this hamstring thing to get him back. Hopefully it's a bit of that. But then you're looking at the team now. It does just look that we've just decided, right, let's stay, as you said, let's stay in games and let's trust our forwards to win us them later on because we've got enough quality off the bench to change it now. Especially with the likes of Lallana, Coutinho coming back. Let's try and be a little bit more solid. Let's not beat ourselves. Let's not give ourselves a big headache, and let's just grind out a few. And that's happened. And you just look at that little run of fixtures now and you think Southampton's key. We beat them. Chelsea are going to bloody Azerbaijan on the Wednesday. Kick off 5 o'clock. Then they come to us on the Saturday. Now, they've got a smaller squad than us. So they're knackered already. Now they've got to go
and they've got injuries.
They've got injuries. They've bombed David Luiz out. So there's one less senior player that he won't be picking. They've got to go all over the other side of the world, then come back to Anfield after we've just beat Southampton, hopefully, and we've done something in Seville to sort of nearly pretty much qualify. Is it a 5:30 kickoff? Is it a 5:30 kickoff on Saturday, Chelsea?
It's 5:30 Saturday.
So the ground will be bouncing because everyone's gone on the ale all day.
If it's off the back of 2 good
If it's off the back of a beat Southampton, we've done all right on the Wednesday, then you don't want to beat Chelsea come to Anfield. Plus, we need to beat one. Last season our record against the top 6 was great. This season it's shite. So that'll be key, and we need to put one on.
You're not going to be the Arden Globetrotters either, have you? You
just need to exploit their weaknesses, and we'll be playing against the 3 at the back system when we normally with our lads can exploit 3 at the back quite well. Tottenham being the exception. So you look at it and you think, we beat Chelsea. Then you might be riding a little crest of a wave here, and you've got the players, you've got the tools back to be able to rotate in them wide areas and not be too damaged. You said before about Mane last season, and it killed us if he didn't play. This season you've got Salah, you've got Oxlade-Chamberlain who looks like he's coming to the party at the right time. So hopefully we can just find a way to win 3 or 4 games on the spin, another 3 or 4, and then before you know it,
we're playing Everton, the biggest home banker of the season.
Yeah, well that table looks different, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
They're definitely going to beat us this year, There's too much arrogance around that fixture already.
But they are shite though.
They are rubbish.
And don't forget, they fucking hate themselves. So they quite like the pain of it. So let's not rule that out.
They haven't won at Anfield since 99, lad. What are you on about?
It doesn't mean that they can't.
It doesn't mean they can't, and they will win one eventually.
Yeah, of course they will, but it's not this time.
I think the Southampton game's massive as well. They're a horrible side to play against because they're not brilliant at anything, but they're not terrible at anything. They're organised. They're very organised.
They've got our centre half.
Yeah, they've got the slowest centre half to ever
They've
play.
also got a shy keeper, to be fair.
Yeah, he always has a fucking blinder against us, though.
He does, don't he? Fucking hell, the big galoot.
The game in Seville is the one where.
That game a monster, isn't it?
What?
Fraser
keeper.
Forster.
Yeah. Fucking
Isn't he,
Fraser Forster.
is he not injured? Am I right in saying no?
I hope he is, because he always plays well against us. Like, ridiculous saves that every other time he plays against someone, he's there and the ball goes like past his shin.
But even when he
goes
fucks
in.
it up against us like he did last year, it fucking bounced off
bobbles
his
and
shit.
stays on the line and all that shit. He's like, fuck off, lad.
I'm looking at our fixtures there, and if you're sort of prioritising them for me, and it might sound a bit mad, it's the Seville one when I'm a bit like, I couldn't care less, and that might sound mad to some people, because we strive to be in the Champions League, but I think it's really important that we sort the league out. We're 3 points behind Tottenham, we're 5th in the league, level on points with Arsenal. Got Chelsea to come. I think this run of league games makes or breaks this season. I think we can go to Seville and beat them, even if you rest a couple of lads. And I'm not sort of saying like last year, third round.
We should have beaten
Yeah,
them.
We battered them at all.
I'm not saying this. Throw a third round of the FA Cup team out against a lower league side, but I'm saying if Salah needs a break, for example, ahead of other big games, then maybe play Oxlade-Chamberlain in that one. Maybe make Salah travel and put him on the bench, break glass, whatever. But I think that game you can sort of see it through and make sure you do the business with Spartak. I think the league's just got to be priority. We need to finish in the top 4 again for all our future ambitions. Liverpool one season in the Champions League is no good. You need to be perennially in the Champions League. And sounds if you don't necessarily perform first time around, that's fine. But being in it again next year, make the signings you need to do. Still be the attractive club that you were in the summer. And any mistakes you made last summer, you can put them right next.
Firmino scores that penalty against Sevilla at Anfield, we win 5-0, It's not 2-2. If that penalty goes in, then we walk out of there winning 4 or 5.
There's a load of them games where you think if that had happened, that whole run before we talked about, we could have won all of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
But that's what's so frustrating, isn't
That's
it?
what's
We're feeling sorry for ourselves, though.
Yeah.
We have one knock and we go, oh, fuck.
But now the little tweaks from the managing, that first half against Huddersfield was bleak. It was bleak to watch, but we moved the ball, it was a bit turgid, but they didn't get anywhere near our box. And I was like,
Never had a shot, did they?
We won the game. Happy days. Fuck, time for me. Let's do that, 15 more times at home.
I mean,
this little change of shape Gareth's made us a bit more solid as well. I think they've definitely. We were a bit gung ho, weren't we? I mean, there's games where you've gone, it's a bit arrogant. I felt that's the right way to sum it up. Sometimes that we've been a bit arrogant, and that's why we've been caught out with silly goals.
the full-back seems to be staying home a little bit more, don't
Yeah.
they? And
Yeah, I mean, Moreno, for example, he was. I remember a game against West Ham away. I think we get beat 2-1 at Upton Park, and they score, and Moreno's by their pen box by the time they put the ball in the back of the net. And
He thought he'd been fouled. I remember that
Yeah,
goal, just
yeah.
right behind it. He'd gone up there, being fouled, instead of getting up and racing back, he sat on his arse, moaning at the
Yeah, I
referee.
remember
But my wider point was that's how far forward he was, and I think this Liverpool side now picks its time to when to go and when to stay. Tactically, I think it's a little bit more switched on since this change of shape. I think he's made a conscious effort to shore things up a little bit, and what have we done? One goal in 3 games is it that we've conceded? So hopefully it's a sign of things to come. I think Southampton aren't exactly the and a flying side. They're quite poor offensively. So the one thing at the weekend I'd say is try and get another clean sheet. Try and keep this going. If it's Clavin and Matip that are the centre half pair and that are getting the clean sheets, then persist with them till at least January.
But do you trust what we've got? Because that's what we were talking about earlier, about trust.
There's not much you can do with it though, is there?
I know there's not much you can do. Well, this is what I was going to say. You can't change nothing until January. And then even when you get to January, I think you're going to hear a lot of the same old stories about, big clubs don't sell their best players in January. It's hard to tempt top talents because they're at top clubs already and they don't want to sell in January. All of that. So, I mean, Liverpool will probably have a try, but whether they actually do anything is another thing. I mean, I was going to come on to January.
Think they genuinely will, Gareth, have a try? I'm not sure they will.
I don't know. I mean, they always do. I think they do have a try. I mean, but you look at the records, and Liverpool have only made 4 signings in the last 5 January windows. One was Grujic, who then doesn't move until the summer anyway. Another was Corker So, that kind of doesn't count. And then, January 2013 is the last one of any real significance, really, because Coutinho and Sturridge come in. Sturridge scores 11 after signing for us in the January and the rest of that season. But it does always seem that they try, in inverted commas, we're at least linked to names, aren't we? And there's a name every January, and then it doesn't seem to happen.
We missed out on Teixeira, didn't we?
Yeah, we
he
had
was
that.
one we went for.
There's a few.
Historically, there's Willian was a January one.
The lad from when he and Air went and sat in Ukraine for a bit.
Oh yeah.
Just like sort of
I can't
ski
say
gear
his
and
name.
that. Yeah. I can't think of his name.
Konoplyanka, was it?
There's
yeah.
what fascinates me. What fascinates me is these lads that we're desperate for in January that we don't sign, and then come the summer we're like, who?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, yeah. Don't worry about him. Don't need him.
What I meant though,
I know what you mean.
What I meant about the trust thing is less about sort of the January thing, but more like, do you see players that haven't been that influential so far, but will become influential in this run? Because with that schedule, he's going to have to rotate. He's going to have to use the squad. I mean, do you see Woodburn getting a sniff at some point? Do you see
Oxlade-Chamberlain starting to turn it?
Oxlade-Chamberlain starting to do stuff? What about Sturridge?
Robertson. He's
Robertson
one
at
I think you'll
left
see. I think the two right backs, he sort of knows there's a game where you play Gomez and there's a game where you play Trent. So I think that one sort of Liverpool at home where we're going to attack. You see Trent. Liverpool against the better sides, you're going to see Gomez. I think you'll see all of that. Wouldn't be surprised if you've seen Trent at the weekend, mind you. Left back, I think he'll pick and choose this time for Robertson. I don't think Moreno's had 18 months off, so he's well rested. So I don't think the Moreno thing. I think he'll occasionally maybe just bang Robertson in out of nowhere and just give Moreno the week off.
Solanke, England's international.
I don't even think you see any of him, to be honest with you. You might see him off the bench or off the games done on 60, for example.
He's so different though, isn't he, to the forwards Klopp actually wants on the pitch.
It'll be interesting to see what he does in terms of the forward options, because if he doesn't play Firmino, then Sturridge comes in, but does that then alter the way you play? And so you start wondering whether...
There's a bit of Salah through the middle against West Ham now, wasn't
there?
Yeah. I wonder whether that was an indication of things to come. With Lallana coming back.
Just a little bit of fluidity and a little bit of not rigidly sticking to that same system.
If you look at Sturridge, John, he tends to, because he scored 2 and 2, we don't forget, he tends to play better when he's got a partner close to him.
He does, definitely does.
So because you think about Firmino drifts and maybe gets a little bit too far from him, if you're looking about Salah getting in tight gaps, and one thing Sturridge can do, he's good with like he can put a through ball in, and he's good with the little flicks and the good little layoffs. And there might be something in that, if you got them two a little bit tighter.
You wonder if there's a strategy for, slightly different in that, that West Ham, the way we played West Ham was let's counter-attack these because they're going to come and have a go. They need to put something on the line for their manager, blah, blah, blah. Let's go there, we'll counter-attack them, we'll kill them on the break. And we'll have Salah doing what he wants, we'll load the left-hand side, blah, blah, blah. You wonder whether there's a little strategy to say, okay, well, in certain games we'll do that, and in other games we'll have Coutinho and Lallana and we'll play little footy and we'll try and press you in and box you in and keep the ball. And then when we're a little bit tired and we want to rest, but we've got our lads who are greased lightning, let's just sit in and bang.
That point you make there, when we're a bit tired, that's why I'm so made up Lallana's coming back for this period. Again, he's going to be rested, isn't he? He's not going to have...
Like a new signing, Paul?
I'm not going to say that, but it's a relief actually, because the one lad who can inject a bit of pace into a flat side, it's him, and he does it. So there's obviously games this year where it's been crying out for Adam Lallana, but I think when things get a bit tight, you're playing your 2 games in 2 days, he's the lad you sort of look to get you going. Him and Henderson, I would say, are the lads to put a bit of pace back in.
I think it's easy to forget where our season fell apart last year as well, and I think Paul's absolutely spot on. If you have the options that we've got in attack now last year, we're probably running the league really, really close. Because we lost Mane last year, and there was no alternative. There was no alternative whatsoever, and Coutinho was injured. You look at that now. You've got Mane fit, Salah fit. If Mane's fit, Salah's fit. Coutinho's there. Lallana's there. Oxlade-Chamberlain's there. Suddenly, and I'm not saying that was the sole reason, but again, it goes back to the feeling sorry for ourselves. We've got ourselves into that rut last year, and we almost kidded ourselves that, well, if we haven't got that fella, we're going to struggle.
I mean, so you've all talked quite positively there about options and about what we've got. What I want to nail is all down a little bit then. So it sounds like you do trust them in many respects now, whereas the first half of the show was quite negative because we talked about some of the mad results we've had. So what are you trusting them then to achieve? So what now is a good season and is a realistic aim for Liverpool?
I don't think a title challenge is in anyone's interest apart from Man City's. You know, I think you speak to Man United fans now and they're the closest rival. Don't think they'll get a sniff of Man City. So you've got to look at second, third, fourth, all the sides above you there. So it's Man United, Tottenham and Chelsea. I think is that the order? Yeah, I think that's the order. I think you've also got to look over your shoulder a little bit and try and put Arsenal to bed. Again, I think that'll hurt Arsenal 2 years with no Champions League football. I don't think they'll get Champions League football again. I think the 5 sides above them are all better than them. I don't know whether Man United drop out. So then you've got to look at Tottenham, who in my opinion are mustard, and they're going to be very hard to stay with them. So I think Chelsea, and that's why I think this Chelsea game's massive. You know, there's unrest going on there. You see David Luiz, who I thought was absolutely fantastic last year, has been bombed. The manager, there's rumours he's going to go back to Italy. I think you've got to look to try and steal a march on Chelsea in some way. I don't think they'll get away with the injuries like they did last year. You know, Moses is out. There's a few of the lads with knocks and missing fixtures. I think they're the one that I think Liverpool have got to go for top 4. That's all we can really achieve. Where that is, I think if you offer me 4th now, I'm taking it. Because I don't see obvious weaknesses in the 4 sides above us. You know, last year you looked at Arsenal, you looked at Man United, and you went, "The shite." That this year I don't think they are. I don't think either of them are. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain go, and I think Sanchez probably goes from Arsenal in January as well. Maybe even Ozil. So I don't see them.
Can we go deep in the Champions League? Do you think? Can we do something in the FA Cup? You're asked about the FA Cup.
I'm asked about getting 4th again, and this. It might sound negative. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to win the FA Cup, or you know, these seasons that Arsenal sort of saved themselves where they've gone and won the FA Cup. It's sound, but I'd probably take more satisfaction out of getting 4th. And I know there's no trophy, and this club needs to be adding trophies because it hasn't added enough. But our priority is a sort of long term Liverpool being title. If you want to win titles and stuff like that, you need to be able to buy the best players, and to do that, the sort of key is being in the Champions League. So I'll celebrate that, like winning the trophy if we finish top 4 again this year.
Andy, what are you trusting them to achieve? What's a good season?
To be honest, I think this little run of games will tell you a hell of a lot. And if they can get into January in and about top 4 and they have a good January, I trust them to finish comfortably in the top 4. But then, equally saying that, even if we have a good run and we don't address, even just get a body, and even if it's like a Kyriakos type figure, just to fill a gap.
Possibly signs him back.
Well, yeah. But no, you know, just
I don't know how slow he is now, lads.
Yeah.
He's running backwards as well.
Yeah.
You can't half head it. Head it from here to Blackpool.
No, but I think John O's spot on in so much as what he said. You know, we haven't got to be the Alan Grubb. So if we trust with the forwards we've got, we haven't got to go gung-go to get a goal, because the lads have got a goal in them. If they can canter along at 2 points a game from now, you'll finish with 74 points, which will get you top 4. We've hit our slump. Hopefully we won't hit another one again. I'll go back to, I mean, look, City might be home and dry and away with the fairies, however you want to put it. But I'll keep going back to what I said earlier. The teams above us and in our peer group haven't played each other, haven't took as much points off each other as what we have, because we've played more of those games than they have, and by the nature of it, there's a load of 6 pointers coming up between them where we've got a free hit. But if we just win, one of them is going to drop points, so we're a little bit closer. So yeah.
What are you saying? So you're saying comfortably top 4. Paul said top 4. Ben?
I think slightly differently. I think the league is such that it's really difficult to say. It's really difficult to finish in the top 4 because there's 6 teams you can get 75, 76 points.
And they're all good.
And they're all good. And it'll come down to who beats who. Or, you know, it'll come down to the last few games. So I would be happy with us going at something like 2 points a game and seeing where we're at. Because especially if we can put a run together now, league victories are made on like mad things happening. Do you know what I mean? So if you can just hang in.
2 points a game gets us 73 points.
2 points a game. So say we go till January at 2 points a game, we'll be in a decent nick. And once you're in decent nick, mad things can happen. You can find yourself in a title challenge out of nowhere. And I'm not saying we're going to win the league. I'm not saying Man City aren't going to win the league. But Man City aren't going to keep playing like they're playing now.
We're only just over a quarter of the way through the season.
We're only a little way through. There's loads to happen. I think just this next period's key. What I'd be happy with is anywhere north of 74 points. I'd be happy with. I think that's reasonable. Whether we finish in the top 4 or not, it's not by the by. It's just it's one of them. It's a hard thing to do. So if we do it, great. But I want us to win something. I want to win it. I'd love to win the FA Cup. I love the FA Cup. It's boss. And all this stuff, it's not important. It's not as important.
One trophy in 11 years.
This 2006 last time we won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And then boss.
The League Cup under Kenny, obviously.
I can understand the League Cup's not as good a thing to win. It's a bit, it's in February. It's always freezing. But you go to Wembley in May. That's a good day out, and that's a good thing. Then you can go and compete and win, and you can feel happy about yourself. And you look at Liverpool 2006. It's a good comparison. We got 82 points. We won the FA Cup. That's a fucking boss season in my head. If we get anywhere near that, I'd be made up.
And all the kids waving flags when Liverpool brought the cup back and went round the town in a bus and that, they were definitely happy.
Yeah,
they were enjoying that.
And I just think it's all well and good saying, yeah, we need to rest players and stuff, but come January, February, when the temptation is to rest people for that FA Cup, I just think let's just put a decent fucking side out and just at least get in the mix. And then if you're in the semis, it's the same as finishing the top 4. Anything can happen because there's 4 or 6 boss sides who want to win it. Anything can happen. But let's at least get there. But the last few years, we haven't even got anywhere near it. You know what I mean?
John, there's the argument, because it's always, you don't concentrate on the cups, your fitness, blah, 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 blah. The other argument is, good teams don't get tired. Teams that are winning and with momentum don't get tired as much as teams who are losing.
Momentum's key.
Yeah.
And you need
Look at 2000.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You're just looking at a picture of Julio with the UEFA Cup.
How many players did we use in 2000? It was about 15, 16,
we had a core of 6 to 8 who'd play every week. And you sort of want us to be in a position, and that's one of the frustrations, I think, is that you can't see that happening in the defence. You can't see us having 2 centre-halves who play together every game because something mad will happen or one of them will get a knock. And that sort of it just frustrates you a bit because you can't see us building a little tight unit that can just guarantee us, a performance, a solid performance, being really difficult to beat. You don't see that happening. I'd love us this season to find a way to without setting the world on fire, without having to play like the best team in the world, find a way to do what we've been doing the last week, win games where. We're expected to win. We just go
win at 70-80%, basically. That's what you're saying.
And build from there.
And
when you need to play well, you play well.
Yeah,
great.
I was going to say it doesn't always need to be champagne football. We'll take results, won't we?
Okay,
what I mean. All right, well, let's do a little bit on January before we finish, because people have been asking, for us to have a chat about that. Obvious things. Coutinho interest could probably and will probably resurface. Emre Can's free to speak to clubs. Ings has probably got to have a think about what he's doing, because there doesn't seem to be an obvious way that he's getting any games of footy at Liverpool right now. Markovic is still kicking around. Presume someone eventually is going to buy this fella, and maybe Grujic as well. What's the score with him? He's not getting in, is he? He's not getting a sniff. He doesn't seem anywhere near. And maybe he starts to think, well, hang on, I'm about to have a massive cramp attack, so have a chat about that, boys, why I just go outside and scream.
January for me is not. I don't think it's maybe as important as just getting it right in the summer was. You all right? Robbo's back from his cramp attack.
I need to drink some more water.
Did you run some fucking work?
I went to the gym this morning. But I I was on the aisle last night, and those two things combined, I just had a massive cramp attack. So carry on.
So say January for me wasn't as important as getting the summer business right. I felt like you sort of need your January signings to play these next 6 weeks. Your summer signings to play these next 6 weeks. You know, I think the transfer window's a load of shite anyway. But the when you need your squad depth, it's from bonfire night to New Year's Day, really, and you know you won't have the luxury of that from after. I mean, if you're in all competitions like Man United, where last year, for example, you need them all. But Liverpool we're already out the League Cup. Whether we go the full distance in the FA Cup and the Champions League remains to be seen. It'd be lovely if we do. But I think we've got squad depth anyway. I think all the criminality of the summer and missing out on centre halves and stuff like that. Well, you've already been damaged by that. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that it still won't happen. But I almost think it's January's. It's hard. The only caveat to that is that some good players move in the January of World Cups. You know, the lads that should be getting games that need to make the respective squads. You know, if you look at that France squad, there's going to be tons and tons of good lads not going because they've got that many good players. Germany squad the same. So
we keep saying centre halves though, don't we? And for obvious reason, but everyone seems to forget a little bit that we went in for Lamar there. Twice.
I've been made up. Don't get me wrong. He's probably, if he offered me Lamar or a centre half in January, I'd probably pick Lamar. From what I've seen of him, he looks absolutely mustard. So yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense because we're quite good going forward, but I just think he makes us even better. So I'm all for that. You know, I just want loads of good players at Liverpool. So if the option comes up that we can get Lamar, let's get him. If the option comes up that you can get Lamar, Van Dijk, and some mad goalie that's come available, let's do that as well. Let's just be ambitious, constantly ambitious. You know, try and go as far as you can in everything, and try and get the best players you possibly can in January.
Yeah, sounds. I think they need a body at centre half, and I think we signed. It's funny you mentioned before, not that it ever happened, but then again we did get Sturridge from Chelsea in the January. David Luiz isn't getting a game.
I love him. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And he's willing to push it a little bit, even if it's on loan. I think a good January for us. As I say, just get a body at centre half. The rest of it, not that bad.
What about outs?
Outs. Well, funny enough, you mentioned Sturridge. I think, as is the case in the summer, if a big enough offer come in for him, and it worked, I think they might consider getting rid of him. I think, despite all the noise that's going to be around it, I don't think there's nothing doing with Coutinho. Principally because Barcelona couldn't put the money up, even if we were amenable to it anyway.
Also, as well, you presume that it's not like when they came knocking last time. It won't suit Liverpool.
No, exactly.
Because Liverpool aren't replacing them in January, so therefore, why would they sell them?
Barcelona as well. You know, we spoke to Sid Lowe on the European show and talk play. They don't know. They don't know where they're going to be playing the football. This is a genuine threat to Barcelona. I thought, I suppose as everyone else, that this could have just been like, of course Barcelona are going to be playing in Spanish football. It's not certain.
Stick them in League 2. Brexit, laughing.
No, but on a serious note though, if you're a player looking at Barcelona now, you can't guarantee they're playing in Spain next year. I think you've got to bide your time.
But then, there's the links to, with Mascherano's, if there's anything in that link, and he's not getting game time at Barcelona, I'll come back and open hands. Never mind the end of the season, which you'd do anyway.
I'd love him just to see him smashing people.
Oh yeah.
He talks though as well.
That's what I'm saying.
And he's won everything.
Bring someone in who's a bit of a leader, who'll get in your referee's face, who's willing to cajole other people and do the dirty work for you. Just anything like that. So I've gone from saying just a centre half to what?
fucking right. 15 people coming in.
If some big fucking ugly grok of a goalie becomes available, get him as well.
But not Fraser Forster. Ben?
I'm interested to see what happens with Van Dijk. Because the same stuff we're saying, it doesn't suit Liverpool to sell Coutinho to Barca. It may not suit Southampton to sell Van Dijk to us, but then it may, because they're desperate to score goals. And they done all right without him defensively. They were solid enough.
There's a check for £75 million there, lads.
Yeah, we'll give you whatever you want. Just give them. Don't stop being our ass, and you can have some goals, and we're all happy. you wonder whether there's a compromise to be made there from Southampton point of view, because what's more important to them? I don't know. I'm just interested to see what happens with it.
All that depends on Les Reed, All that depends on Les Reed. I mean, it was almost the point of, because you speak to people in and around it, and after the fact and all that, you hear that, it was generally accepted that 75 million was more than what he was worth, but because they'd been asked around so much and they played the game so much, it was because Les Reed's got such a good record with bringing players through there now, it become a point of principle for him. But at some point, his paymasters are going to go, principles all well and good, mate, but as you said, there's a check for £75 million there, mate.
And they've got new owners as well.
Yeah.
Who've basically said that unless they sell, they can't buy.
Let's get a fucking grip, lad.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think 75 million is too much. I think he's a good player, and I think when we were in very desperate times at the end of August, there was a fine in there for Liverpool. That probably 10 million, 15 million more than he was worth. You paid that by not getting him in August. So everything that's happened in the past now,
but Paul,
give
you
him
say,
a fair value.
You say that, but I subscribe to this argument. What might be worth £75 million to us might not be worth £75 million to another team.
Yes,
it's what you need at that time. So it might not be worth £75 million to Chelsea. You've got Gary Cahill, Man City, for example. They've got loads of centre halves, but at the same time, a player who we're interested in, like a forward player, but like Lamar, for example, we've already got all those options. Whereas there's another team who haven't got those options. They're willing to. Yeah. He's worth more to them than he would be to us.
Supply and demand, isn't it? But it'll be interesting. It'll just be interesting to see what happens with Southampton, because it might have been a point of principle, but you aren't having him for 300 million. But now that principle might have passed him. Fucking hell, we sell him.
He's there, Burnley.
You want to sell him last year? He's just fucked
The
it
other
up.
thing is Pellegrino. Who is a Pellegrino?
Pellegrino.
The thing long Paul.
Pellegrino's the Chilean lad.
So the Southampton manager who used to play for us, he must want to rebuild that squad, because he wasn't given a dime really in the summer. And say he gets 50 of the 75 back. I just imagine like they've been terrible in Southampton's terms really. They've got that Gabbiadini up front, and he's not brilliant. So if you give him, I don't know, the option of 3 lads, and I think they've got quite a few centre halves there already. They signed a lad from Lazio in the summer. They've already got Yoshida, who's a decent lad. They've got one of their own. I can't remember his name.
They've got a couple of decent centre halves.
Got some young lads.
Let's just give them a fucking hiding on Saturday.
Make
him look fucking awful. Say, listen, he's shite, and we'll give you 30. Give you 30, and you can have Danny Ings on loan until May. You score your fucking 15 goals, keep it up. Why'd you necking him fuck off back down south, you pricks?
Seems a bit fair.
That's the business sorted there by Jono.
Michael Edwards is shitting himself now.
Yeah. Liverpool, if you want to give us a shout on getting them into the recruitment team, you know what I mean, we can sort that. Well, that's been the Anfield app. Good chat. Nice one, boys. A little plug for our tour player service, if you've not got involved with that. You get loads and loads of podcasts, basically 30 to 40 a month, depending on how hard we're working, which is normally dead hard. So basically the shows all through the week that you can choose from about Liverpool, past, present, future, on everything, interviews, all kinds. There's an extra free show out today as well, a cup of tea with Amanda Jacks, which is very interesting. She's a caseworker for the Football
Can we just say on that, Robert, we can only do shows like that because of the support.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've managed to turn this now into a full-time gig, obviously, and we're able to, take the time and interview people and get them into our studio because we can work on it full-time. Certainly when we were working full-time jobs, we simply couldn't do this. We could, so thanks to everyone who has subscribed, and if you haven't already, give it a go, because there's absolutely loads going on. As we just said on the show, we're about to go into a really hectic fixture schedule. We're also going out to Seville with Blue Air. What could go wrong there? And if you want to come, Blue Air have still got places available. They're flying direct from John Lennon Airport. Seats available at blueairweb.com. Loads of great stuff coming up, so it's a good way to keep up with Everton Liverpool during this hectic spell. Also, as well, finally, we are running the Liverpool Santa Dash on December the 3rd. We're raising dough for Woodlands Hospice, which is a very worthy cause. So please back us, really, and we promise to put up plenty of moody pictures of us in Father Christmas suits looking hot and sweaty. The website to support us and help Woodlands with any spare cash you might have is justgiving.com/fundraising. fundraising/Anfield Wrap Santa Dash. So it's justgiving.com/fundraising/Anfield Wrap Santa Dash. And if you can't be bothered, writing that down right now, it'll be all over our Twitter. It's on Facebook. It's easy enough
there's
to
a link
find.
in this blurb as well.
There'll be a link in the blurb. There you go as well. Look at that. So please do back us on that. Help Woodlands Hospice. And that has been the Anfield Wrap.